Alright, so y'all should be able to see my pad now, so let me minimize that. Alright, y'all, so this will be 6A, and we'll be looking at what we call characterizing data. So what we're going to look at tonight is what we call a distribution. So I got a definition here for distribution. So distribution of a variable refers to the way its values are spread over all possible values. So it refers to the way values are spread over all possible values. So it's sort of like if you ever seen a scatter plot or a chart, they're showing you the distribution of how the data came about, okay? So, and we can always display these distributions with a table or a graph. So we can display distributions with a table or graph. So there's three measures of center that we're going to be looking at today. So the three measures in center. So measures of center of a distribution. So we want to know what kind of centers we get because we want to know where's our data leaning to. What can we predict those values to be in the future? So there's three measures of center that we look at. So the first one we look at is called the mean. And y'all have messed with the mean before if you've ever found your averages. So your mean is going to be your average. So to find the mean is the sum of all values divided by the total number of values. So divided by total number of values. So you would have the formula, your mean is going to equal sum of all values on top divided by the number of values. So like if you had 4 tests and you wanted to know your average or your mean, you would add all 4 of them tests up and then divide by that 4. Now, another thing about our mean is that the mean is highly affected, or that might be affected. It's highly affected by what we call outliers. And an outlier is like a score that don't seem like all the other scores. So like say I had 4 tests, 3 of them were 85, but then on one of my tests I got a 25. That 25 would be an outlier because it's not what I'm normally making, okay? And we'll talk more about these outliers later. So that's one measure, is the mean. The second measure is what we call the median. And your median is the middle value. So it's the middle value in the sorted data set. So what they mean is you would put your data in order from small to large, or you could go from large to small. And then you're going to look for what that middle number is. That's going to be your median. Now that would be for an odd data set. If you had an even number of datas, then you would take the two most center values, add them together, and divide by 2. Okay? And we'll have examples doing the median in a little bit. Now the median is not affected by outliers. So it's not affected by outliers. So I'm just still looking for the middle number. I don't care if I got really bad numbers that are far out. I'm still looking for the middle. Okay? And then the mode would be the last of the tests we're looking at today. And the mode is the most common value. So it's the most common value. So you're looking for repeats. Which one repeats the most is going to be the mode. Okay? So those are the 3 measures of center we're going to look at. So what I'm going to do is an example, and we're going to actually find the mean, median, and mode from this example before we move into the next topic. So if you got support, that's all you had to do was 2 questions, finding the mean, median, and mode, and they'll be the same way I'm doing these, okay? So there's 8 grocery stores that sell the PR Energy Bar for the following prices: $109, $129, $129, $135. So those are supposed to be dollar symbols. What's next? $139, $149, $159, and finally $179. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got my 8 stores that are selling this PR Energy Bar. So what I'm going to do is find the mean, median, and mode for these 8 prices, okay? So the first thing we'll look at is the mean. We said the mean was the sum of all these numbers added together divided by how many I had. So if I was going to do this on my calculator, I would add 1.09 plus 129 plus 129 plus 135 plus 139 plus 149 plus 159 plus $1.79. I would add all them up and divide by 8, since I had 8 of those values. So y'all, let me add the top on my calculator. I had 1.09 plus 129, 129, 135, 139, 149, 159, and 179. So it looks like I made a negative instead of my period here. And that 135, let me arrow back to that. That should be a decimal. All right, looks like I got all the decimals in now. So let me hit enter. That's going to give me the sum. So there was another decimal. Y'all kept hitting the wrong button. All right, let's hit enter. I get 1128 on top. We're going to divide that by 8, which is that bottom number. So 1128 divided by 8 will give us an average of $1.41. All right, so that was the mean or the average of all 8 of these added together, okay? So now we want to find, what's next, the median. And remember, the median is the middle number. Now, these numbers were already in ascending order. They went from the small to the large. So since there's 8, I got to look for the 2 middle numbers. So notice I got 3 numbers on the left, 3 numbers on the right. So since it wasn't odd, I have to use the 2 middle numbers since it's even. And what we would do, we would add these 2 numbers and divide by 2. So we would do 1.35 plus 1.39 and divide by 2. So let's see what we get. 1.35 plus 1.39. That's going to give me 2.74. And then I'll divide that by the 2. And that's going to give me 1.37. So that means the middle of this distribution of numbers is going to be 1.37. Okay? Now we want to find the mode. The mode is which one of these numbers or prices happen the most. So notice 1.09 only happens once. Oh, look at that. 129 happens twice. 135 only once. 139 once. 49 once. 159 only happened once. 179 only happens once. So the mode would be the $1.29 since it happened more than one time. Okay, so that is finding the mean, median, and mode of a distribution of prices. Alrighty, so now I'll go and I'll actually talk about the outlier. Alright, so let me move my camera back up, y'all. So the outlier, like I said, is a data value. So it's a data value that is much higher or much less. Sorry about that. Or much less than the other values. Outliers, so outliers can change the mean because remember the mean is the average of all the numbers. So if I got these really low numbers or really high numbers, they can make my mean a little higher or a little lower than normal, okay? So they can change the mean. Outliers don't change the median or the mode. Because remember, the median is just the middle. So I can have really high and really low numbers, but that middle is still going to be my 2 center numbers, okay? Or my most center number if it's an odd number of data. My mode is still going to be the data that happens the most, okay? So outliers will not affect the ones that happen the most. All right, so what we want to look at now is the shape of distributions. So I'm going to start looking at the shapes of distributions. All right, y'all, I had pictures of this that I'm going to put up here. All right, so on top, I was just showing y'all some single-peaked distributions, which come up and have one top or one mountaintop, and then they sort of come back down. Same thing on the right, but I just used a line chart to sort of show you that this data is still having go up and has one peak and then comes down. Here you would get a bimodal distribution if you have two peaks. So say this was looking for the average years that people get married. Maybe women would be the first peak. Maybe they get married at a younger age than, say, men. So you would get two humps because the men and the women would have different ages that they got married, okay? Single humps could be looking at all college students and what number of hours y'all might spend working or studying in a week. That might give me a single peak, okay? So single peaks, double peaks, which we often call bimodal. Alrighty, so next on that, I got a picture. Symmetry. Notice this graph I got. A distribution is symmetric if its left half over here is a mirror of its right half to the right. Also, to be symmetric, the mode, mean, and median have to be the same. So if my mean was 50, my mode would be 50. That means 50 would happen the most. And my median or my middle number would be 50. Okay? If those are all the same, you'll have a symmetric graph. Then notice, a distribution that is not symmetric must have values that tend to be more spread out on one side than the other. If it's got more data on one side or the other, we say they are skewed. So let me let y'all write some of that down, and then I'll bring up my next picture on skewed graphs. So notice symmetric, everything is perfect, mirror image. All right, so let me show you some skewed graphs. To be left skewed, the mean and median are less than the mode. So the mode member is the data that happens the most. But notice my mean and median had lower averages than the mode. That's going to put most of my data on the left side, which means we are talking about it being left skewed, okay? And then down here's your outliers at the low values. Now, it's going to be right skewed if the values are more spread out on the right side of it. So here's your mode, but then the median and mean are higher than your mode, which is pulling your averages up so that you got more data on the right side than you do on the left side. So right skewed, mean and median are greater than the mode. Left skewed, mean and median are less than the mode. All right, then I'll actually write what some of this is saying for us, okay? All right, so on your symmetry and skewness. Never knew skewness was a word until this class, y'all. So it's symmetric. If its left half is a mirror image of the right half. So left half is a mirror image of the right half. Okay, so that's what I just showed you. It's left skewed, so left skewed if the values are more spread out on the left side. That means your mean and median are less than your mode. Okay? And then finally we had the right skewed, and that's when the values are more spread out on the right side. So remember, if I said it was more spread out on the right side, your mean and median are greater than your mode. Okay, you got so much more data on that right side, it's pulling your mean and your averages up on the higher end, okay? Alrighty, so I got one more coming in. All right, so the last thing we're going to look at, and then I'm going to show you all some examples of your homework. So the last thing I'm going to lecture over before we look at our homework is variation. And the variation describes how widely data values spread out about the center. So spread out about the center. And once y'all get that, I'm going to show y'all a picture of 3 types of variation we could look at. Okay, so low variation, most of your data is centered right near the average. You don't have many scores that are outlying it. Everything's sort of concentrated, so it forms a really steep peak, okay, because all the values are really, really close. Moderate variation, notice the peak is a little wider. That's going to happen when you get data that is spread out further from those averages. You got a little bit more data hitting on these left and right sides, okay? Still symmetrical, right? Now, high variation. I don't have a dominant average like I did on the low variation. Notice I don't have as many values getting in that middle. They're sort of spread out. I might even have a few outliers lying on this. But notice it's a more flat looking peak when you have a lot of variation. You got a lot of scores that are pulling you away from that average. So say to have low variation, say my average on my test was an 85. Well, low variation, my high test might have been a 90, and my low test might have been an 80. Add them together and you get an average of 85, right? Moderate variation, say I was at 85 in the center, but this time I might have a 95 over here and down to a 75. Notice over here I had a range of what, about 10? Now I've got a range of about 20. I've got more values coming out that's pulling that peak down, okay? All right, high variation. Say I had an 85 average, but I don't have as many averages in 85. I got more averages that might be hitting out here in the, well, we could go 70s into the hundreds, right? Might even had 100 or 70 on these tests. But what's happening, I'm not getting as many tests in the center or the average range, so my peak is a little more flat. Okay, so low variation, tight peak, moderate variation, got a little spread to it, and then your high variation is going to be a flattened out peak. Okay. Alrighty, so what I'm about to do is sort of work through some of the problems that you were seeing in the homework for this section. And that'll sort of help you see what we got going on with these, okay? All right, so let me pull this up. All right, y'all, so this first question I went through was just a, all right, this is on our homework on 6A. All right, so they want me to define the mean, median, and mode. So I went through these, and this said the mean is the most common value data set. Wrong. That was our mode, right? The mean is the middle value. That was wrong. The middle was our median. The mean is the middle value. Wrong again. The mean is the most common value. Wrong again. So it's got to be one of these last two. The mean is the sum of all values divided by the number of values. That's true. But look what this says. It is not affected by outliers. Well, we said the only one affected by outliers was the mean. So look at this last one. The mean is the sum of all data values divided by the number of values, and it can be strongly affected by outliers. So I went with F on that one, okay? Because remember, we did say that the mean could be affected by those outliers. So that was our mean. Then it wants you to sort of define the median. And remember, the median is the middle value in the data set. And we said it was not affected by outliers. So if you went down through the order, I went with B on this one. It is the middle value, and it is not affected by outliers. And then finally, y'all, the mode. We said that was the most common value, or the one that happens the most. And once again, it was not affected by outliers, so I picked C on that one. Okay, so they're going to give you two choices for each, and one will be affected by outliers, one won't be, okay? So just remember, mean is affected by outliers, median and mode are not affected by outliers, okay? All right, so I'm going to do this one where we're going to start finding the mean, median, and mode. So let me write my numbers down. All right, y'all, so we got 75, 69, 39, 65, 74, 42, 73, 43, 61, and 66. So I got 10 numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got 10 numbers. They want us to find the mean, median, and the mode. Now, I'm actually going to show you how to do this one on the calculator after I do it by hand, okay? So I'm going to show you 2 ways on this one. And then you'll have this video to go back and sort of see how I was putting everything into that calculator. So the first thing we'll do is find that mean. So the mean was all these numbers added together, divided by how many numbers I had. So I'm going to take 75 plus 69 plus 39 plus 65 plus 74 plus 42 plus 73 plus 43, whoops, plus 61 plus 66. I'm going to divide all of those numbers after I add them by 10 because I had 10 scores. Now let me tell you, if you do this all in one step on the calculator, you have to put parentheses around the top, okay? If not, the calculator is only going to divide 66 by 10 and then add that to everything. So on the calculator, if you do that in one step like I'm about to do, put the top in parentheses. So 75 plus 69 plus 39, 65, 74, 42, 73, 43, 61, and 66. I got all my numbers added. I'm going to close parentheses now and then divide by 10 because I had 10 scores. So y'all, let's see what that gives us. That gives us, that's going to equal 60.7. So 60.7 is my mean. So now we got to find our median. Oh, but y'all look, to find my median, my numbers need to be in order from large to small or small to large. I usually do mine from small to large. So let me renumber these because my smallest number is 39. Then what's next? 42, 43. What's next after 43? No more 40s, no 50s. So now my 60s, I got a 61. What's next? 65, 66, 69. Oh, now the 70s are left. So 73, 74, 75. 73, 74, 75. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 numbers. So remember, since that's an even number, I got to find the 2 most central numbers. So that'll be numbers 5 and 6. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 5th and 6th numbers will be 65 and 66. So that I got 4 numbers on each side of that. So to get the median, we're going to add 65 plus 66. And there was 2 numbers, so we divide by 2. Once again, if you do that on a calculator, put parentheses around the top. All right, so here we go. 65 plus 66 divided by 2 should give me 65.5. So the mid.
Mr. Rathbone, are you dividing by 2 because it's 2 numbers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So anytime your median has an even number of data points, you're going to take the 2 most center numbers, add them together, and always divide by 2. Now, if this was an odd number of data points, then we would take the very center number because it would be an odd number, okay? All right, then we find our mode. And the mode is the data point that happens the most. But you look here, 39 happened once, 42 once, 43 once. All these points only happen one time. So when that happens, we say it has no mode. Okay, there's no data that it's trying to get to. All right, so y'all ready for my next one? All right, so let me write these numbers out. Ooh, these are decimals. So I got a 98.7, 98.1, 98.9, and these are temperatures from a healthy adult that they were taking, okay? So we're going to have 10 of these. This is 98.2, 98.7, and in my next row I have 98.6, 98.0, 98.5, 98.7, and then 99. All right, so once again, we'll find our mean, median, and mode. Oh, I forgot I was going to show you on the calculator that last one. So let me do this one on the calculator since I did the last one by hand. But what I would do is add all them together and divide by 10 to get that mean, okay? So I'm going to show you how to put these numbers into the calculator. So let's see, second stat, hold on, I need stat, okay. So, so to find the mean, first we got to put all these numbers into a list. So I'm going to put these into a list in the calculator that's called L1. So to do that, you hit the stat button. So I hit stat, and it's on edit, so I hit enter. So edit, enter. That brings me up a L1 list here. So my calculator's hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in on that just a little. All right, so y'all might can see that. So I'm going to clear this list by going up top and hitting delete. So it cleared that list. Now I'm going to come back down. I'm going to put these numbers in L1. So I'm going to do 98.7, enter. Whoops, what's it telling me? Hang on, I keep hitting that negative down there, right? So 98.7, all right, 98.1, enter. So I'm just putting all these numbers in that first list. 98.9, 98.2, 98.7, 98.6, 98.0, 98.5, 98.7, and then 99.0. So notice that told me I was on my 10th number. That's what that L2, that L1, oh, I'm in L2, so that's what that L2 means. Y'all might be in L1. I guess I clicked over to L2, but it don't matter which one you're in. So mine is actually going to be in L2 that I did because I wasn't in L1's row. So now I got all that in there for L2. I'm going to quit the screen and hit second mode to quit. So watch this. I'm going to hit stat. Whoops, where am I at? Second stat. I'm going to hit second stat. So second stat. And I'm going to go over to math. So arrow over to math. And guess what you see in that column? The third thing you see is the mean. And we're wanting to find the mean, so we hit enter on the mean. Now we got to go get that L2 that I made. So what you would do to get L2 was second stat. Now it's on L1, but I didn't use L1 by accident, I used L2. So I arrow down to L2 and hit enter. So now it's going to find the average or the mean of my list L2. So I hit enter, and look at that. My average is 98.54. Okay, so you put all your data into the calculator in L1 or L2, whatever list you want to put it in. Quit that screen, and then you go back and you hit second stat, and you go over to do your math. Because guess what's next? I'm going to find the median. The median is my middle number, right? So watch this. I'm going to go to the same place, second stat, over to math. The fourth thing you see is the median. So click on median and hit enter. I'm still going to use L2 because that's where my data was. So I hit second stat to get see where it says list, because we're looking for our different list, right? So L2 was my list, so I hit enter. So let's see what the middle of my data set's going to be. When I hit enter, the middle of my data set is 98.65. Now, I need to find the mode. So unfortunately, if you go through here on second stat, you do not see a mode on there. So the calculator won't do the mode, but you can look at these and see which one happens the most. Here's 98.7 happened once, twice, 3 times. Let's see, 98.1 only once, 98.2 only once, 98.6 only once. Everybody else only happens once. So since 98.7 happened 3 times, my mode is going to be 98.7. So look, there's not much variation, and these are pretty essentially about the same. So that would be a really nice symmetrical shaped graph, okay? All right, so these examples I've been doing, they had an even number of data points. Now I'm going to do one that's got an odd number of data points. So let's turn this over for the next example. All right, now these are little bitty decimals here, okay? So I got 0.8161, so 0.8161, 0.8191, 0.8165, 0.8176, 0.7911, 0.8141, and then finally 0.8123. So notice I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 data points, okay? Now this one I'll do both ways so that y'all can get used to the calculator and doing this by hands. So first I'm going to do it by hand and find my mean. So the mean is going to be all these added together divided by 7 since I had 7 points. So I got 0.8161 plus 0.8191 plus 0.8165 plus 0.8176 plus 0.7911 plus 0.8141 plus 0.8123, all of that divided by 7. All right, so here we go on the calculator. 0.8161 plus 0.8191 plus 0.8165 0.8176, 0.7911, 0.8141, and then plus 0.8123. Close those parentheses and divide by 7. And we know it should be close to what I'm getting on here, and we got what, a 0.8124. Okay. And this says round 5 decimal places. So since I got to go 5 decimal places, I need to add a 0. Okay. All right, let's see, what's next? The median. So the median was my middle, and let's see, these are not in order, so I need to put these in order so that I can see what the middle is going to be. So the smallest number is 0.7911, takes care of that one. Then let's see, I got a 8123, looks like it's next. Takes care of that one. 8141 takes care of that one. So what's next? I got 61. So 0.8161 takes care of that. 0.8165. 0.8176, and then finally 0.8191. So since this is an odd number, I need the exact center number, which will be number 4th spot. So my median is going to equal, and this don't have to, it just said type the decimal, so I got 0.8161. So you just want to type the exact number like it is in the problem. Now, if you want to put a 0 in the front, you can do that, but you don't have to, okay? So the middle number is the 0.8161, but notice you got to put these numbers in order in order to find that middle number, okay? Now, what was next? My mode. And then remember, I'm going to do this on the calculator also, okay? So my mode is which number happened the most. Well, that happened once. So everybody happens once. So this one has no mode. Okay, it's only when you have one that repeats more than the others that you get a mode out of that. So let's do this on the calculator. This time I'll use L1, okay? So, remember, I gave you all the steps over there, right? The first thing you're going to do is hit Stat. So, Stat, and then you're going to go to Edit, which is already there, and Enter. Now, I'm going to move mine back to L1. And I'm in L5, so that's what I'm using, okay? So in L5, I'm going to put my numbers, 0.8161. And remember, I don't have to put them in order to do this, 0.8191. The calculator will figure that out, 0.8165, 0.8176, 0.7911, 0.8141, and then 0.8123. So enter on that, and I got my numbers there, so I want to set second mode to quit. So to get my mean, remember, I hit second stat, go to math, arrow down to mean, hit enter. Remember, I put mine in L5 that time, so I got to go to second stat, and go down to L5 and hit enter. So let's see if our mean is 0.8124. And remember, add a 0 because it wanted 5 decimal places. Also, I can find my median. So second stat, go to math, go down to median, hit enter. And then second stat, go to L5 for me. So y'all might be using L1, that's what you would use. All right, let's see if our median was 0.8161, okay? So now on this problem, they wanted to know if we would consider any of these numbers an outlier. So there's one that I would probably consider an outlier in that data, right? Notice all these have a 0.81 on everything, except I got this one right here that's got a 0.7911. So I'm going to consider that 0.7911 to be an outlier. So they said on this problem, did it have an outlier? Yes. And the outlier, so the outlier is 0.7911. So what they said was, hey, take that outlier out of your data and tell us what the mean, median, and mode are going to be without the outlier so that we can see how did that outlier data point affect my data, okay? So let's do the mean. So now if you're in that same list, let me go back to my stat, edit. So I was in this 5. So if I wanted to delete that 1 point on my calculator, I would just go to it and delete it and it's gone. So now my list is only, 6 numbers now without 0.7911 in it. And then I'm going to quit that screen. So let's see if there was a difference. So remember, second stat, go to math, enter. Whoops, wrong one. Second stats, math, go to mean and enter. Now remember, my new L5, I took 0.7911 out of it. So let me grab that. L5, enter. So now we're going to find the mean of the data without 0.7911 in it. And the new mean is 0.81595. And let's see, that wanted me to go 5 decimal places. So notice, it's a little bit different. It's a little higher. That 0.791 pulled me down quite a bit. All right, let me see what my median is. So once again, I go to second stats, over to math, go down to median and hit enter. And then second stat, go to L5 because that's where my data is. Now remember, if you're doing this by hand, you would take that one out to find your median. And since you only got 6 numbers, you would have to add them 2 together and divide by 2 to find the median by hand. So it was different with 7 numbers up here, okay? 6 of them, you have to average the middle. All right, so let's see what they gave me for my new median. 0.8163. So notice, it didn't really change my median that much. What's that, the tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000 units were affected by just a little bit, okay? And then the mode, well, the mode, nobody happens more than once still, so my mode is still no mode. Okay, so what I'm going to let y'all do, that takes care of 6A pretty much. And the support was doing just 2 problems where you had to find mean, median, and mode, like I was doing in here. So I'm going to stop this share if y'all got that. All right, y'all, so do anyone have any questions over this? So was y'all able to hear me good on this and get the notes?
Good on my end.
All righty. Okay. So you want to talk finally,
Yes, sir.
right? All right. So we will have to do this again Thursday because I got to quarantine until Thursday or Friday, they said. And I guess that's it. So if y'all have no more questions, what I'll do is I'll end this. I'm going to upload my recording into YouTube, and once I get that link, I'll send it to y'all for y'all to have for your notes, all right? Alrighty, y'all. So I'll see y'all Thursday night, 6 o'clock. Y'all have a good night.
You too.